Welcome back to Intermediate Writing or Intermediate Composition. Professor Kentley again here. All right, we're going to talk about the Chicago footnote formats. Warning ahead, this is really boring, dry stuff. But this is something you need to know if you're going to write college papers. We'll do the long footnote format first. And of course, you can go from long footnote format to the endnote format if you want to. Pretty much the same. Just that with the endnote format, they're all at the end of the document. With the footnote format, they're at the bottom of each page. So, you look at a document, you've got the citation. The in-text citation is basically a superscripted or raised number corresponding to a footnote down at the bottom of the page. So we're first going to talk about the long footnote format. The long footnote format includes all the information about the source, the full reference in the footnote at the bottom of the page, each page where it is cited, it appears. Long footnote format. So, let's talk about different kinds of sources within the long footnote format, what your footnotes will look like. Now, if it's a longer document, in addition to the footnotes, you would probably want to have a bibliography or works cited at the end of a document where you list the full reference information for each source, and each source is listed in alphabetical order according to the author or the family name of the first author. For your midterm assignment, you don't have to do the extra bibliography if you're using the long footnote format. And that's one advantage of the long footnote or endnote format. If it's a shorter document, you may not be required, your professor might not require you to then repeat everything again in a works cited section at the end of the document. Or bibliography, it's basically a type of bibliography. If it's a longer document, you'd have each individual footnote at the bottom of each page. Then at the end of the document, you'll have a separate section after the text called works cited, references, or bibliography, where again you list each source, full information for each source, each reference that is, in full form, full information for each reference in alphabetical order. Again, if it's a shorter document like this assignment in my class, it's not necessary usually, and I won't require you to do that, especially if you're using the long footnote format. So, okay, let's look at different sources in the long footnote format. So you have your footnote in the text, the number in the text, and at the bottom of the page you'd have the following information. Books. If it's a book, it's going to look like this. Here we have Hugh Hencken, comma, Tarquinia, that's the name, has to do with Etruscan stuff. The Etruscan stuff we were talking about earlier. Etruscan kings, this is one of his names. Tarquinian Etruscan origins. Parentheses, New York, Praeger Press, 1971. So location, publisher, year in parentheses. Now, I think in some of my examples, I have family name first or last name first. Sometimes you see that. People use Chicago style. I looked at the official Chicago style webpage, and they don't show last name first. They would just do Hugh Hencken. This is my own example, though, Hugh Hencken. So I don't care which way you do it. If you're doing the long footnote style in your paper, I don't care if you do like Hugh Hencken or Hencken, comma, Hugh, family name first, or just first name, family name, I don't care. But it seems like the official Chicago format, it's just like this here, what you see on the screen. But like in some of the examples I did previously, I did have family name first, and I do see others doing Chicago style with family name first. Another example, Dave Farina, comma, is this Wi-Fi organic? He's kind of a science writer. So it's kind of a book on popular science. Parentheses, okay, the city and state in the US where it's published, Mango Press, 2021. That's how you would do books. If you're doing endnotes, instead of being at the bottom of the page, all of this is just going to be at the end of the document in a section called endnotes. But it may be easier to footnote things for this midterm assignment. Now, next we have periodicals. A periodical is a newspaper or magazine, something that is published periodically, regularly, like every day or every week or every month or every 2 weeks or something like that. That's a periodical. So general newspapers and magazines. So for example, here we have Mead as the author, or sometimes some people do last name first or family name first, Mead, comma, Rebecca, whatever. The Prophet of Dystopia is the title of the article, and that's in quotation marks. So in Chicago, kind of like in MLA, the title of an article is in quotation marks, comma, New Yorker. So New Yorker is the name of the magazine or newspaper. So the publication name, the name of the magazine or newspaper, is in italics, followed by the date and the page number. So in Chicago, for your footnotes, if information is from particular pages, you would put that in your footnote. And the same would be true for the book examples that I cited. If information is from a particular page, it's better practice to put those pages for the book that I'm citing. Periodicals, you can put the page number where the information came from. If it's not from any particular page or particular pages, you can just list all the pages of the article, like that. Next we have Farhad Manjoo, Snap, which is a company, makes bet on the cultural supremacy of the camera. New York Times, publication, and the date, March 8, 2017. I don't care if you want to do it a more logical way, European style, which is 8 March 2017. You don't need a comma after the month that way. That makes more sense than those weird American date styles. Now here, if it's an online article, you can include the URL, especially if it is primarily an online source. Now, New York Times, it's also published in print, but you got it maybe from the online version, so you can put the URL. Next, we have an article, Pegoraro, because the title in quotation marks, Washington Post is the newspaper name and the date. Next we have, what is it, Tanya Pie, Squishy Sugar History of Peeps, Vox. Vox is kind of a magazine for discussing political and social issues, and the date. And the URL, because Vox is primarily an online publication. Next I have a couple of fictional examples here, or one fictional example. I'll just do this in a couple of ways with this fictional example. Periodicals might just have a date on them, or they might also have like a volume and issue number. So a volume, this is an academic journal, but it shows you like, okay, so this is published 4 times a year. There are 4 issues a year, that is 1 volume. If I'm citing 1 issue, that's like issue number 1 or issue number 2. So this, for example, happens to be an academic journal, and this is volume 30, issue 1, or number 1, number 2, whatever. Some periodicals, especially magazines, might have a volume number or volume and issue number. So you could do those like this one. We have choosing the right Linux distribution. This is fictional example, European Business News. Volume 14, number 3, then the date is in parentheses, and then the page numbers. You could do that, or if there's no volume and issue, probably the more common way for most periodicals will be like this. It's just a date, so you could do it like this. European Business News in italics, comma, March 15, 2021, and then the page numbers for the article. In this case, the whole article is itself is pages 56 through 58. So journal articles. Academic journal articles, those are less likely for you to use in this course, but if you happen to find some journal articles that you can understand and that are useful, go ahead. So you would cite it kind of like this. You've got the title of the article in quotation marks. In this case, this is sort of more of a professional journal. Not necessarily, it's not really heavy academics, more of a professional publication, foreign policy. 145, I think that's the volume number, and then November 2004, and then page 52, the information is from page 52 of that article. Next we have this Kung, Lean, and Ozrim. The title of the article, Expanding College Access, blah, blah, blah. A long title, but that's not unusual for academic research articles. Journal of Human Capital, that's the journal or publication. 11 is the volume number, number 1, 2017, pages 9 through 10. Now, the next part here is a DOI, so that DOI address. So that's, you don't have to do that, especially for my class, but it's a good habit to get into if you're citing journal articles and you're going to go on to do more research in your courses, or especially in graduate school. It's a good habit to get into. Okay, so if it's an academic research journal like this, okay, there are, of course, it comes out in print. It's primarily a print source, but their articles are also, the Sononmun are also on the website. But sometimes they might reorganize their website and the URLs will change. Well, a DOI is sort of a permanent link to a research article or other research source online. So even if the website gets reorganized and the URLs change, you can type in that, or copy and paste in that DOI address. A DOI is like a permanent link to an academic URL, an academic article or other academic research source online, and it will take you to the right URL. Okay, like magic, sort of like magic. For my class, you don't have to include DOIs. If you're in graduate school, writing stuff in graduate school, yeah, they are going to be required. So it's up to you. Web sources. Now here, and that kind of reminds me of like periodical articles where you don't have an author. So let's take this example again, choosing the right Linux distribution. There's no author. So you start with the title. The author is anonymous, or it's written by several people. Sometimes with newspapers, that's the case. And so likewise, web sources. If it's an online web source, and again, it should be a good quality source, more of a professional source, or a government website, or the official website of a company that's got some official business documents, something like that you might be citing. So privacy policy, that's the title of that particular web page. And then it's part of a website called Privacy in Terms, Google, okay, google.com. Then you've got a date, which shows when you accessed it. And that's made for sites where the information might change. And so you put a date like last accessed or last modified, and then the date, and then the full URL. So if it's primarily a web source, you would put in the URL. About Yale Facts, that's the title of a particular page. Yale University, that's the title of the whole website, and the date and the URL. So that is what the long footnote format looks like. You would have these long footnotes that have the full information for the sources at the bottom of each page. That's the Chicago long footnote style. If you have other kinds of sources that I didn't talk about, I'll refer you to a couple of websites. One is my own InWiki website, or the Chicago style official website of the Chicago Manual of Style. I'll give you those URLs in the LMS or in the links below this video if you see the YouTube information as you're watching this. Now, there's another form of Chicago style I'm going to talk about now. It's the Chicago short footnote plus bibliography. So you have a short footnote, and then at the end of your document you have a bibliography or a works cited or in references section. Most commonly it's called works cited, especially in humanities fields. And that's where you have the full reference information for each source, full reference information. Again, I'll provide you a link to more information on this. So this is different. So again, in the text you'll have like blah, 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 and then the number, and it goes to a footnote below. So not in endnotes, just a footnote. This is for short footnotes and bibliography or works cited. So let's say we've got Hencken, so just the last name of the author or authors. Title of the book, Tarquinia and Etruscan origins, page 111. Next, Farina, just the last name or family name. The title of the book, the page numbers that the information came from. Next, two authors, Grazer and Fishman, just the last names. Title of the book, page numbers here. At the end of the document, I'm going to have a separate section that says works cited. Sometimes it's in references. So, sometimes it's called references. Occasionally it might be called bibliography, but in college papers, it's more, especially in humanities, it's more common just to call it works cited. So here I have full information. Now the format is a little different. It's family name first. So Farina, comma, Dave, period. So not commas, but periods to separate the different fields or the different sets of information. This is different. The in reference style is different than in the long footnote style. We saw long footnote style earlier where it's name, comma, title, comma. Here it's different. This is a more formal, somewhat more formal style. Name, family name first, at least for the first name, period. The title of the book, so books here, and then there's no parentheses, the location, colon, Mango Press, comma, year 2021. Another example, you have a book with two authors or more, Grazer, comma, Brian. So the first name is family name first. Make sure you get the family name correct. Don't put Brian, comma, Grazer. Don't do that. Grazer, comma, Brian. And then the other names, if there are other authors, it's like, first name first, surname last. Title of the book. Notice two things. The short footnote earlier, I didn't write the name of the whole book title. I can shorten the book title in the short footnotes. So just in the short footnote, it's just Grazer Fishman, Curious Mind. I shorten the title. You can do that in Chicago footnotes, short footnote style. The full title, Curious Mind, The Secret to a Bigger Life. Okay, period. New York, Simon & Schuster is the publisher, comma, 2015. Also, then we got Hencken, Hugh, Tarquinia and Etruscan origins. Okay, something different. The footnotes within the text, 1, 2, 3, it's going to be in the order in which you cite things. For a works cited section, they're going to be in alphabetical order according to the author's family name or the family name of the first author. If you have a source with no author, you start with the title and alphabetize it that way. So it's Farina, Grazer, Hencken, alphabetical order. Works cited references are going to be in alphabetical order. It's important. Get that right. Next, periodical articles. So here we have, let's see, the footnotes are like this. Mead, Dystopia, title, shortened title. Mead is just the last name. So just the last name, family name of the author, a shortened title. Especially with articles, I'm going to shorten the titles, just Dystopia. And we'll see here down below that the full title, okay, it's actually Rebecca Mead, and the full title is The Prophet of Dystopia from the New Yorker. Short footnote, just the shortened title and a page number if a page number is relevant, if it's just from one page. Next, Manjoo Snap, title of the article. If the information is from the entire article, not a particular page, okay, I'm not putting a page number. Pegoraro, Apple's iPhone, shortened title. Notice the title is shortened here. Pi, history of peeps. Okay. Then this is going to be in the works cited, and you can have the full information, the full titles. So you got Manjoo, Snap makes a bet on the cultural supremacy of the camera. In the footnote, it was shortened to just Snap. Manjoo, Snap. That's it. Full title here, New York Times, and the date. And the URL if you mainly relied on the URL. Next, Rebecca Mead, Prophet of Dystopia. So again, it was shortened to Dystopia in the footnote, and in the end reference, or the works cited, the full title, The Prophet of Dystopia, New Yorker, is the publication, the magazine, and the date. Next, Pi, Tanya Pi. It was abbreviated to History of Peeps, but here the full title, The Squishy Sugary History of Peeps. So shorten the title in a way that makes sense in the short footnote, and you have the full title in the works cited. Vox, again, the magazine, online, it's an online magazine. They also have a good YouTube channel, it's really good. The date and the URL, because this is primarily an online publication. And last, finally, Pegoraro, the full title, Apple's iPhone is sleek, smart, and simple, compared to the shortened title in the footnote, Apple's iPhone, Washington Post, date, and so on. Journal articles, little complicated here because there's a lot more information. So let me just give you one or two of these. Okay. Okay, journal articles, short footnote. Here I'm citing this Kung, Lean, and Orizim paper. So the last name of each author, make sure you get the last names correct, not the first names, just the last names or family names. A shortened version of the title, Expanding College Access, 23, that's page 23, information's from page 23. In the works cited, it's going to look like this at the end of your paper. You've got the full author information, and that's a bit long, yeah. The full title here, which is really long, Expanding College Access, blah, blah, blah. Journal of Human Capital 11, volume 11, number 1. So academic journals usually have a volume and issue number. Volume number 11, that's like the 11th year that it was published. And then the year in parentheses. And then the page numbers here in the works cited, you're going to have the page numbers for the full article, for the full research article. Let's say we have another example, Bay et al. So that et al. Et al. Is kind of like etc., but that's for names in a citation. The Bay article has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 authors. Oh my God, you don't want to write all those names. Even if it's just the family names, that's too much. So for a citation, like a short footnote citation, or even the in-text citation, if you're doing an in-text citation system, which we're not talking about in this video or in this week, if it's 3 or more names, that's too much to write out. So for the short citation, like a short footnote, the first family name, Bay et al. Et al. Means et alia, that's like etc., but it's for names. It's a Latin abbreviation for names and others. Et al. Abbreviates for like 3 or more names, and you don't want to write out, 9 names, too much. A shortened title, just predicting responses. The full title is predicting responses to contemporary and violent human change, and the page number if it's just from one page. In your end references, or works cited, you'll have all the information like this. So if you've just cited these 2 sources, your end references will have these 2 sources like this. Or let's say we've got some more sources that are cited later, and you have all of this. Now, I should, by the way, mention that some of these examples are from the Chicago Manual official website. Some of these examples, so let me give credit to that. Some of these sources I've just borrowed from the Chicago Manual website. Okay, web sources. So again, if you have sources with, let's say, periodicals with no author, it would look like this in the footnote citation, and it would look like this in references or works cited. And likewise, web sources likely don't have authors. So footnote citation, let's say Google privacy policy. Google is like the general website. Privacy policy is like a shortened title for that particular web page. Or Yale facts, Yale University. In references, I would have the full information. Notice, by the way, the works cited or in references are not numbered. Instead, what you have are hanging indents like this. It starts kind of hanging out, and then the next line of a reference or entry is kind of indented like that, a small tab space. So if we put this all together, you're going to have indented references, a works cited like this. Everything's hanging indented, not numbered, but hanging indents. And maybe a little extra space between entries, sort of like paragraph spacing. Might have that. So it will look something like that. And that's how you do Chicago style short footnotes with full bibliography. So if you're doing this for your proposal writing assignment, you can have short footnotes at the bottom of each page, and then at the end of your document you'll have works cited, and then you'll have all the references that you used, but they're listed in alphabetical order. If the first word in the reference is a family name, you can use that to alphabetize it. Otherwise, it's probably a title or Google, the company behind a website or the general name of the website. Yeah, that's how you would do it. All right. If you have questions about Chicago style, I'll give you a couple of links to look at in the LMS. Or in the assignment page in the LMS, I'll give you a couple of links. And you can ask me, but as long as I'm not going to be too terribly, extremely picky about the format, if you mess up the commas and periods or punctuation a little bit, okay, I'll be forgiving. I'm mainly interested to see that you're trying to include the full information somehow. Whether you're using a full long footnote or short footnote with a works cited, as long as you have complete information about each source, I'll be happy. And that's really the point. The exact format, this may be your first time, so I'll be a tiny bit flexible, but try to put in enough information. The point is put in enough information so if somebody wants to look up your source, they can search for it and easily find it with the information you've given. And especially if they need to find a particular page number where some information is from, or they can find that source easily by searching, by Googling it. That's really the main point of these citation systems. Again, you can use the short footnote system that I've talked about here. You can use that is the short footnote plus works cited system I've talked about here. You can use the long footnote system or the endnote version of the long footnote system. Or if you've already learned in a different class the Chicago parenthetical in-text citation, where in the text instead of a footnote you've got author and year, you can do that. You can use another system if you've learned another system in another course like APA or MLA, or a system that's used in a different field. If you're maybe doing, taking classes in a different field, in a different area, and you've learned a citation referencing system, that's fine too. I've proofread or read a lot of papers from different fields. I'm used to all of that kind of stuff. That's fine. So good luck on your papers, good luck on your assignments, and I will have for the next class session, instead of a recorded video, I'm going to be in Zoom. I'll send you a Zoom link in the LMS, and I'll probably open a couple of times where you can just come in and talk to me about your midterm project, your midterm proposal, and at least ask me questions, or at least just let me know what you're doing and how it's going. Just update me, ask me questions. Maybe we can brainstorm some ideas. If you need help, we can brainstorm together. So I'll make a couple of Zoom sessions available on a couple of different days for that. So again, we've seen the Chicago short footnote plus works cited style. We've seen the Chicago long footnote style. You can use those, or you can use some other system. I don't care. And once you learn one of these systems, you can learn another pretty easily. And the point is that you really have enough information that it makes sense. Even if you make some little mistakes with the formatting, that's okay. All right, so good luck again on your papers, and I hope to see you maybe in a Zoom session next week or so. So good luck, enjoy, and see you later. Goodbye.